very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. You know, maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just a...
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once. Already did that.
Here we are, back
Timer.
again. I've got a timer.
Okay.
We're good to go.
Okay.
Welcome back to another episode of Burning Boat Business.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
What's up?
Normally I prepare for these.
Mm-hmm.
This is...
We're a little busy at the
We're a
moment.
little frazzled.
As
I know we
we
said that
said
last time and
before.
probably the one before then.
Yeah.
But at least we're recording a podcast.
It's good. We just sat down. We're just going to see how maybe it's just a 5-minute podcast. Who knows?
It's actually a good exercise because normally we do have like a couple of points that if the conversation stalls or whatever, we can move on to another point. We've got nothing.
Right.
It's not like we don't have anything to talk about.
No.
So maybe this will be just more of a...
Here's the thing. So somebody I listened to, H3, he said once,
Yeah.
Ethan from H3, he said that he has notes, but he knows an interview or a podcast has gone really well if he
he doesn't
never
look at
had
them.
to kind of look at them.
They're so good to
They're
have.
there as
just
a
in case,
backup.
because there are definitely podcasts where we don't really look at our notes.
Exactly. And I think there was a little time where we weren't taking, or at least I personally wasn't coming in with anything, and I was just fucked if I was like,
Okay,
Yeah,
moving on.
right.
Suddenly you got to like make something
So,
up.
um,
well, something like naturally in a conversation, you stop talking.
yeah,
It's not that weird to suddenly sit and just think about what you just
sit in
said.
silence, right?
Or you're normally you're kind of doing something as well.
Right.
Like you're cooking or having a conversation. Oh, I'm just going to focus on
Yeah.
doing something
Yeah.
for like 2 minutes, and then
Yeah.
you'll think of a point in the meantime.
Yeah.
But you can't have a 2-minute silence on a podcast.
No,
Or
even
maybe
a
we
2-second
should.
silence sounds very scary and frightening.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the last podcast of 2018.
2018.
Last podcast we went through and mentioned every single video we had released.
Yeah. A segment that I thought was going to take up a lot of time. And it took up no time at all, and it was really awkward, actually.
No, well,
It just felt a little bit, it came across a little bit braggy, maybe, or like, you know, I just kind of got to the end of the list, and I was like, well, that's a list. All right, moving on to the next thing. It's
well,
like,
it's
you
like
can't...
we've already talked about all the videos.
Yeah,
I think the
exactly.
point was that it is actually a lot of individual little jobs that we've done. Sometimes it's hard. You actually forgot a few afterwards.
Yeah.
I was like,
I forgot one.
yeah, you got one.
I forgot the policy video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that ever going to come out anywhere?
Matthias, hit us up. Let us know.
I don't know if he listens to this.
You know,
If you
Matthias, start
do,
listening.
we'd like you on the podcast so that we can talk about that,
What?
working with him.
Oh, yeah,
Or,
that'd be
like
fun.
his kind of insights into what his job is. I mean, we've talked about it before. He seems
Right.
like an interesting guy. He has kind
Right.
of like a... it sounds a little bit like a boring job, but he seems to make a lot out of it.
He does, and he is very, I think, aligned with what we're doing.
Yeah, he seems to get it the most
Yeah.
out of everyone we're working with.
And
I don't know
he-
what I mean by that when I say it, but he gets excited about big ideas. Or
Yeah,
like
and
crazy
he'll
stuff.
sit down and be like, you know, people don't really understand how much of an impact a video has these days, and how much more important it is to have videos than. And we're like, oh my god, you're like selling us to yourself.
This is why we're working with you.
I don't need to
Matthias.
fucking say anything, you know. So yeah, he's really, and he's also similar to us, where he'll just say an idea that is so ridiculous in terms of scope and sort of grandiosity, right? But he'll just say it.
Yeah,
And he
why not?
knows that, like, well, maybe we can do it, maybe you can't, but he's just throwing out ideas. And I think that's my favorite way to work too, is like, let's figure out afterwards if we can do that shit or not.
yeah.
But there's no reason to constrain yourself when you're just brainstorming and just throwing shit out, you know?
I think one of his ideas was for just in like an Instagram video
Mm-hmm.
or a Facebook like trailer for something else to do a year-long time lapse.
A year long, every season.
It'd be cool
in
to show all
Denmark.
the seasons changing,
yeah.
but the one subject be remaining the same.
Right.
We're like, yeah,
with
that
the
would be
subject
amazing.
that's in use for the full year. So somehow you'd have to figure out how
Move
to
it there.
shoot a year-long time lapse, and then stuff like that. Exactly. But I love it, and you know,
I think I've read a bunch of places that you should try and work with people who already kind of subscribe to what you are trying to sell them. It seems like a little bit of a waste of time to be trying to convince people that video is important and that it's something they need.
Right.
Like focus on the people who already are releasing videos.
Yeah.
And say, okay, we can make them better, or we can do more of it or something.
Because it does make me very uncomfortable when it's like, well, do you want a video? Oh, we don't know. And I'm like, well, I'm not the best salesperson is what I'm trying to say. I'm happy when someone's like, we need a video.
Yeah.
And then we can step in and be like, we think you need this kind of video.
Exactly.
But they're like going door to door and trying to sell to
we haven't
people.
really done that. Oh, well, I guess a little bit on like when we were reaching out on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we all know how well that went.
All right, what do you think we should do? Should we do like a recap of the year?
Let's
and then
go.
if there's something interesting, we'll keep talking about that.
Sure.
Maybe there's something we haven't like talked about.
Well,
that
let's
we
just go on
forgot
a
about.
bunch of tangents.
Right. I had an idea.
Uh-huh.
Like while we were talking.
Uh-huh.
What might be funny is to listen to our first podcast and see what we said.
Now?
Yeah.
On the podcast?
Yeah.
Podception?
Like podcast within podcast and then like react to it. That might be a very bad idea. It sounds more like a YouTube video.
I veto.
Okay, well then you go with the next idea.
Oh my. I guess if we're recapping the year, what can we recap? What could we talk about? What do I want to talk about is the question.
The two of us, we have big conversations
We do.
off the podcast
Right.
about a bunch of random stuff.
Correct.
Things that we are interested in, but that we don't yet know too much about.
Right.
So it's like, it's kind of hard to want to talk about stuff like that on the podcast. But I find those conversations to be so interesting. And sometimes I'm like, I wish we had recorded that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's something that I think would rather learn a little bit more about before we start saying
Well, it
it for a
always
bunch of
comes
people to
yeah, it comes down
analyze
to
and,
like, we need to read up
I
a
don't
little
really
bit.
know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
It's just like
exactly.
ideas.
Exactly.
So we can't do that either.
No. What else can we talk about? Well, let's just talk in general. Like, how's the year been going? So, we started this company. It's gone according to my expectations. We are right on track with what's happening, where we're headed. I'm even now getting more into the possibility of us moving into feature films quicker than potentially expected if this film we're working on does well.
That's the thing, right?
And I don't want to jinx it,
Yeah.
but we're both
Very
pretty excited about the film and proud of it. So that's very exciting for me in 2019, and that was something I didn't maybe think would happen so quickly. Like there's a spark, right?
Yeah.
Who knows if that will turn into the flame?
Yeah.
But it's like, ooh, there's something there, you know? Because like we've always said, the commercial videos, which are promo videos, etc., the sort of stuff that actually makes us money at the moment, is not what we want to be doing. We want to be making money, making feature films and documentaries, and that's kind of our bread and butter.
This is why I wanted to listen to the first podcast, because I roughly remember that, because I looked at it like, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and I was reminded of how before we kind of started, before you moved here, we actually had quite like a big vision for how it would go. That we'd start and focus on working for free. That would then transition into getting money. And as soon as we had enough, we'd then start implementing feature-length film stuff.
Right.
Then when you're in it and all you're thinking about is making promotional videos, making commercials, getting paid,
Right.
it suddenly is like, wait, what about the feature film? Like,
Right.
have we forgotten about that?
We did.
Yeah, but on purpose.
Yeah, on purpose, exactly.
It was planned, but then it's suddenly like well, hang on, was it planned, or are we just suddenly getting stuck in doing this?
It's
It's like now we are transitioning into making the feature-length film.
We're so
And it's what we
fucking.
said.
I am so deep in it right now.
I know.
I cannot see anything else.
It's hard. I've got to admit, it's hard to switch off
Yeah, I
from
just
thinking on
yeah.
that film. From thinking about that film.
Yeah.
When we finish work. So basically, we hang up these. We've talked about that. We hang up these pin boards with
Right.
stills from the film, so that we
Right.
can see the scenes we're working on and
Right.
kind of compare and get some
Right.
new ideas. Sometimes I don't take them down at the end of the day, and they're
Mhm.
still hanging in the living room.
Mhm.
And we're sitting. Me and my girlfriend are sitting watching something on the
Mhm.
computer, and my eyes keep darting up to the.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what
Yeah.
about that scene?
Yeah.
And I keep looking. It's not a bad thing though. It's just it's an observation. I'm just confirming that I'm also very deep in it, and it's very. You were saying just before that you wake up and you're so excited, and by 12 o'clock you're even more excited because it's so much fun to be
insane.
working on.
It's insane, and it gives me so much. I am afraid of when this ends because I feel like that's going to be a very scary moment when time, because my whole purpose, everything right now is that film, right? So I go home, I'll watch a movie,
Yeah.
but it's all through the lens of like,
How can I?
I'm not watching. I'm watching a movie. I'm pausing it, going back. Ooh, that's cool. Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, constantly. So it's just like everything feels more colorful and vibrant and whatever because of this larger purpose than myself. A little bit, it feels like,
I can totally imagine that. I think for me it's a little different because I keep having little moments of, well, once we finish this, then we work on my film.
Yeah.
And I'm very much.
And I wouldn't expect you to. Yeah, exactly.
I don't think about that film very often while we're working on this because it's like it's all I think about. But occasionally it'll like fly in there. I'm like, ooh, we're learning so much from doing this. I can't wait to implement it into my film. So I don't have that maybe nearly as much.
I think it's natural though, because I'm just thinking now that when we were shooting your documentary, I remember. Do you remember when we were sitting at the cafe, and then either you or Scott asked like something about something, and I said, "Oh, well, I actually have a feature film I want to make as well." Mm-hmm. And then we just very briefly talked about it.
Oh my God, that's the first time I heard you talk about Boris and Johan. I remember that so clearly because I didn't understand what you were saying.
Yeah, I think it was one of those moments where it's like, it's still not, even though now I know what the fucking film is about, if anyone's like, hey, you making that? What's it about? Ooh. I will go down the worst explanation and then just be like, fuck it. No, never mind. I'm so bad at explaining it.
This is an interesting point because it's something I've actually been thinking about. I just finished reading a book about entrepreneur startups and some little like tips and tricks. That sounds dumb now, but
it does sound dumb.
Yeah,
you're right.
It's like
I'm kidding.
No, but it was like for people who either have already started a company or considering starting a company. Here are some things to reconsider, some basics to reconsider. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like there's a lot of stuff that talks about details of doing things and you maybe overlook like the basics of what you're doing. For example, being able to say in a sentence, well, what do we do? Or what is my film about?
Right.
And that can be very important in situations.
Right.
I mean, it's not now because we're the only ones looking at it.
Right.
But what might be interesting is if we could maybe come up with a sentence about what we do as a company. Because we did that a year ago.
Right. What did we say?
We said it's so broad, and it's of course like that's.
But that's why I don't like these one-liners, because although I do think they would help you focus towards a point, right?
Yeah.
I also find them. The problem is, I'll usually give people a one-liner about my film of what it's about, but that's not what the plot is.
No.
And as soon as I go down the plot, that's when I get into like, okay, well, if you really want to know, you can sit down for 30 minutes.
Well, that's the idea.
And I can run you down the whole movie. But obviously they want a more condensed version.
Yeah.
The only other option I know of is like, well, the film's about this.
Yeah.
But that's so vague.
No, I know. But it's the idea would be to be able to tell them the vague thing, and then if they're still interested, then tell them more.
Right.
And if they're still interested, then get into like the details of it.
Right.
But having that first statement about it is important.
Well, that I have. Because if you ask me, I would go, well, the film's about the bystander effect. What's the bystander effect? I explain the bystander effect.
Yeah.
And then because of my own insecurities, I'm then, but that's not really that's not the plot. The plot is blah, blah. And then I go down that whole stupid path.
I think it's, I don't think we need to like work on a line for your movie. I was more thinking of for Burning Boat,
Right.
purely on the like promotional commercial side of what we're doing.
Right.
Having like instead of saying we're filmmakers or we're promotional video
Yeah.
content creators, I don't know, maybe come up with something that's a little more, oh, that sounds interesting. So like not saying what everyone else says,
Right.
but have something like a slightly different angle that we come in from. Because I mean, the whole point of Burning Boat is that it stands for completely getting rid of something you find safe and taking a risk on something new and giving that everything you have. Maybe we should like say that a little bit more if we're ever in a situation where someone's like, oh, what do you do?
But how do you avoid that being cheesy in a sense?
I know. That's why maybe
I'm a traveler. I'm an adventurer. Okay, but we
I don't
need a
know.
film.
I think there's
right,
an
but we're
answer.
filmmakers as well.
I think there's an answer. No. Don't deny that we're filmmakers.
Right,
Like,
right.
obviously include that in there. But I've often been like, oh, we're a production company. But I don't feel like that doesn't get anyone excited.
No.
It's like it's more than that. And I think everyone says that, and everyone would be right probably. Like, but what's our take on that? What is it that we give?
I don't know.
I think we get people excited about kind of like a crazy idea that they have and help them to kind of see that through in a way that makes sense and turn that crazy idea into something that hopefully is worth a little bit of risk. I think that's kind of the thread that we've seen with who we've worked with so far.
Yeah.
Is that the one idea, because everyone kind of comes in with like, okay, we kind of want to do this. We also have this one like, it's probably a bad idea, but
Right.
like, and then they say that and we're like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And you can kind of try and work that into their overall goal. And then they're like, oh, that actually sounds like we could do that.
Right.
And then they get really excited about that. And I feel like we kind of help them to turn otherwise overly risky things into like, oh, that makes sense.
I would agree.
I don't know. I think,
Is there a word? Yeah.
I don't know.
It's worth thinking about.
I think it is, because we haven't been really in many situations where we've had to talk to someone who has no idea who we are
No.
and say like, oh, this is what we do.
Right. But what I also like is that we have a resume now
Yeah.
that is like you can watch, which is always better than obviously. The worst thing is when we have to go in and be like, imagine.
Yeah. Imagine that this is good.
Yeah. It's like
Imagine amazing video
Right.
that starts like this.
exactly.
No one does that.
No. So now at least we have a little bit of.
Yeah, our website. I mean, that reminds me, we have to update that thing.
We need to
Our
update
best like 3 videos aren't on there.
Let's do
It
that.
only just came out.
Yeah. I also want to tie back quickly.
Ooh, we can talk about that video now. That's another thing we can talk about.
Which one?
The Last Souls video.
Oh yeah.
Just came out.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Hold your thought on
See,
that.
but this like it flows. What I was just saying is kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is that video? But okay, I'll hold on.
Oh no. Then let's go down that.
No,
What do you
but
wanna say
what are you
about
going
it?
to say first?
I was just going to tie back quickly and just try to clarify when I said that we just want to do feature films and stuff.
Yeah.
I want to clarify that it just once we started doing this whole thing in the company, we kind of thought of it as, well, you got the commercial projects, and then at some point there'll be a line, and we have the money to kind of transition into full-time work in the feature films. And all I really mean to say is that obviously we still need to make money,
Yeah.
and we still need to do that stuff, and we enjoy doing it as well. But we've also found other avenues of like, for example, thinking, we have a documentary that we could potentially sell based on the critical success of this particular film.
Yeah.
That would be another source of revenue
Yeah.
that could also help us get out of the
Yeah.
commercial films, so to say, So I just find it that there's more, once you're in it, you find more avenues and more like opportunities of transitioning the company to like what you ultimately want to do. It's not saying fuck that shit.
No,
We got to
not
do
at
it.
all,
You know
not
what
at
I mean?
all.
I just want to clarify that.
But I think that is an interesting point to maybe talk a little bit more about the idea of like, okay, we have to start working on this feature-length film, and we have to start making that part of the company. As soon as we made that decision, or kind of got to that point, because it was part of the plan from the beginning, and we start realizing that there's a lot that we can do to kind of stay in there, or at least work even more within that stuff, like a documentary and another one that we're thinking about. And maybe we hadn't thought of that had we not made that jump very abruptly from December 1st. Okay, we're starting to edit your movie, and seeing how well it's going and how exciting it is, you can't help but start to think about, well, how else could we kind of do this kind of thing?
Exactly.
And it just,
And you see it. I mean, you can go on Netflix and you see documentaries that you're like, you know, I'm not trying to inflate our ego, but I'm like, I think we are on par with some of those documentaries. If they were able to sell a documentary to Netflix, even if it's for $10,000, $20,000 or whatever,
it's something.
You know, that is something.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be massive for us.
Yeah, just to be able to say you have something on Netflix, that'd be pretty cool.
Well, whatever. And also $10,000, $20,000 might not extend very far to big production companies, but for companies as small as ours, that keeps us going that allows us for 6 months to say, hey, we're going to shut down this side of ourselves so that you can focus solely on writing the film and we can get into pre-production for that, for example.
And I think that also means that it gives another book I read called Oversubscribed is all about the concept of having a product or a service or a business basically that you can't accommodate everyone who wants to work with you. And that creates a sense of I don't know what the right word is, but you know, you see like successful nightclubs will only let in a certain amount of people who tick a certain amount of boxes, either in their appearance or whatever, and that creates the sense of like it's an exclusive club, and it becomes more successful because of that. That if we are focusing on what we actually want to do, feature-length filmmaking, which gets us paid after the fact, not during, we then also don't have time to be working with 12 different people.
No.
We only have time to be working with a select few people who we then ideally would get to pick from everyone we are working with.
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah, I just mean that I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
But then we would also be able to charge more. This all comes from a point of like, if people like what we do, I think that's what we're showing. People do like what we're creating, and they're saying we want more of it. Yeah, that's all. That's where I'm coming from.
Let's talk about the Souls video.
Yeah,
because that did not do as hot as we had.
No, not yet. At least I mean, I keep saying that, but
we have long-term hopes for it.
To me, that was something. Making that last video was something that got me really excited about doing more of that. Not as excited as working on our documentaries and feature-length films. Yeah, but it was very enjoyable because it was taking an idea and really kind of taking it to the extreme. Right. And then on top of that, convincing the people we were working with that it was worth the so-called risk, because it was a video that contained graphic images or something a little bit more shocking than your average promotional video
for a restaurant. Yeah.
Basically, we made a video for a vegan restaurant that shows a little girl getting hit by a car and dying. Talking about that. Well, she follows someone across the street who crosses when it's a red light, and she doesn't look, and she just follows him blindly. The idea being that the next generation is watching what we're doing. We need to set a better example in whatever way we can. Right. It doesn't really talk about veganism, actually, but it's produced by a vegan restaurant. So I guess you can make the conclusion that there are certain things that what we do the next generation is also going to do. Correct. And we had said that we were going to make a video showing someone approaching a light that's red,
Yeah.
having made the decision to cross,
Yeah.
noticing a little girl standing there,
Yeah.
and thinking to himself, "Oh, I can't
I won't cross. Yeah.
I'm going to set a good example."
Yeah.
And it'd be a happy little video
Right.
with a good little message.
Right.
And they liked that, and they said, "Cool, let's make that one of them."
Uh-huh.
And then we immediately afterwards on the bus back, you said, "What if he does crash and she gets hit by a car?"
Yeah.
And it was like, that's interesting.
Same point. A little more visually interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I just felt like it was a better idea, because I think it would more accurately reflect what a lot of people aren't doing.
Right.
I mean, I don't think...
And it's also like, it would be hard to get across just the thought of like a guy's approaching a red light. How do you shoot it that, oh, he was about to cross, but then he sees the little girl and he stops. And it's like, not a big payoff for that either.
No.
She just
No,
stops.
it wouldn't be that
That's
memorable.
the consequence, yeah.
I think that maybe is more what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's not really that memorable. I don't think it would have a big effect.
No.
I think people would feel like, oh, I agree with that.
Right.
But the other version
we also-
makes you really question
Yeah.
yourself and what you're doing. And I think most people who watch it will, in one way or another, consider something that they could maybe improve on.
Right.
Whatever that be.
Right.
To set a slightly better example.
Right. And I think that's a general theme as well, is that, you know, people who work, a lot of times people will say that the thing that I did the best is not necessarily their favorite song or their favorite movie or their favorite, you know, coming from the person who produced its perspective.
Yeah.
So it does make sense that, because to me, I was like, oh, people will like the red light video more than the shower video.
Yeah.
Shower video is another video we did for the same restaurant.
Yeah, it's a comedy piece.
Exactly. And the shower video did very well for our standards and for their standards as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you had asked me before, like, which one will do better, I said 100% the red light. It's just more interesting. It's more visually interesting. It has more of an impact. It says a little bit more. And now in hindsight, I feel like we've learned a lot from seeing the kind of things. And you can really pick it apart and be like, you know what? People probably shared that more because there was a fact that kind of went with it. And there's a reason to share that with people.
Yeah, it is very easy in hindsight to look at it and now understand, based on actual statistics, what is working and what isn't working. It's
and now
very
we could
hard
probably go and say, you know, I still think that the red light is a more interesting video as a company to put out, but I think the shower video is more shareable, and those are two different things.
Yeah, that is.
One kind of sits on your website and is like, this is what we're about. The other one is kind of like advertisement in a sense of like, let's spread it to a lot of people, and they see our food at the end and the restaurant's name gets in their head and everything. Two very different things, which would be great. Well, now we can say that to companies. Now that we have a little bit more information, we have a little bit more knowledge.
Yeah.
I feel like can come to companies and be like, you know, do you want something that's just shareable and that's purely for sort of like a commercial, or do you want something also that has a little bit of like more meaning and more like, you know, something that you would put on your website as like as the main thing, sort of, as for people to understand what you stand for.
It's been an interesting experience because they weren't 100% on whether or not they should release that video.
No.
They really liked it, but they felt like it might be too much.
They were showing it to people, and they said people were having a strong reaction to it, and
which
not
is
a good one, because the little girl gets hit by a car.
And it's that. I think it's for the people who watch that compared to the shower video. I think the red light video has more of an impact on that person watching it.
Right. And then the shower video also has a really hot guy in it. And then there's also that blonde guy, the tall blonde guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
What?
That like even though, let's talk about how many views they got. So far, the shower video,
what's it got?
is nearing 100,000 views on Facebook. It's been out for a month. The red light video has been out for 5 days, 5 or 6
Okay.
days,
Okay.
6 days, and it has, I believe, between 5 and 6,000 views. So significantly less, but it's also not been out for a month. So
Right. We do know because we can base it on.
It doesn't make sense for us to say, oh, it's probably going to get a lot more views. But it would also be wrong to say that we know 100% that it isn't. But I would lean
definitely.
towards
That's true.
looking at the numbers. The shower video has obviously done better.
Yeah. In the short
We
term.
don't know how the red light video is
Right,
going to do
right.
in the next 3 weeks or even past that. I think there's a lot of statistics that show that a lot of viral videos actually don't go viral anywhere close to when they get uploaded.
Yeah.
Something get uploaded like a year
Some are
ago.
from like 2002.
It's pretty crazy.
Where did this come from? It's
Suddenly
got,
it surfaces. Suddenly
views. Yeah.
someone shares it
Yeah.
who has a lot of,
Yeah.
of viewers, and then it goes viral.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily mean that we have like read it wrong or whatever. It still can
No,
do
I
what we
agree.
think, what we thought it was going to
Exactly.
do. But straight off the bat, it's clear that one video was definitely more shareable than the other. And we've talked about why that is, and I think
Right.
it makes sense. But I think that those 6,000 people who have seen the red light, I think that video has had an impact on them more than 6,000 people who've watched the shower video.
I don't
think,
know.
you know, like, I think watching it, it's gonna have, whether it be a negative or a positive impact. I think it makes you think more than the shower video.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that might be just my opinion.
Yeah, well, people would have a stronger emotional reaction, just purely because one is humorous and the other one's dramatic.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it.
But it's also like Facebook. Obviously,
I'd love to do more. Like get more data. Like see what are people saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to
agree.
look at that and
I agree.
get all nerdy about it.
Yeah, we do like the stats.
Yeah, the stats are important
Stats
because
are fun.
they can also be super misleading.
Yeah.
It's like you don't think that that's what's not working. It's something completely different. And it's very important to have like the full picture. Suddenly views becomes very like, wait, what are views actually?
Yeah.
That can mean something very different.
It's also a little bit hard to swallow sometimes when someone sends you something and they're like, oh yeah, 60% of people didn't watch it without audio. And you're like, God damn it. Or like, hey, people are clicking off at 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's a very hard thing to, because suddenly it makes sense. And you're like, okay, well, we kind of don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We have to grab the viewer's attention. Even if I prefer slower videos, more beautiful, whatever myself.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that that's the best thing for a Facebook
You're definitely
ad,
right.
You kind of got to like shut that part of yourself off and just be like, okay, that makes sense. They've said people are clicking away after 3 seconds. So let's
do something different, which I agree with. But I think what I'm saying is to then assume that because you're clicking away, people are clicking away after 3 seconds, that means that this specific thing needs to change, I think isn't necessarily true.
No.
I think it means, oh, well, let's try something different next time. And I
Right.
think that's why what we're doing is with the companies where we're working on multiple videos is this kind of idea of testing out stuff and seeing what works best and then coming back afterwards and really kind of producing that kind of content.
Exactly.
But there's also a lot of luck involved.
It's definitely luck involved, and there's definitely, it's also not our style necessarily, and I don't want to be all high and mighty, but, we don't make a lot of text-heavy videos or motion graphic-y videos, which is what Facebook is very saturated with, The video starts, and immediately you have text, you have something to read that kind of forces you to grabs your attention, whatever, and then brings you into. I also don't know because I've turned off the thing in my Facebook where it just automatically plays.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even on Facebook at the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't really watch videos on Facebook. But having done a little bit of research, it is interesting to see how different Facebook videos are from YouTube videos, for example, because it is people scrolling and you're trying to get them to stop scrolling, whereas YouTube people are actively kind of clicking on something. So obviously the thumbnail becomes very important all of a sudden. Facebook, the thumbnail doesn't really matter because it just starts playing.
Yeah. So what do we do? Do we, and I say we in a very general sense, what does one do?
I think you focus on what the company wants and you let them know that, we will do our best always to make it shareable and everything, but that is, focus on what you like. It's the whole thing, like focus on what you like and the fans will come, right? If you focus too much on what the fans want, you kind of become disingenuous and everything.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think
like,
that's what
just
I was
keep
getting
doing
at.
your thing. And at some point, if you're genuine and honest and it resonates with people, slowly they will start to like what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the wrong thing would be to immediately then abandon a style,
Right.
if that's potentially what's not working,
Right.
to do what on paper should work.
Right.
Because
Like
first of
making
all, it
a-
might be wrong, and if you kind of kept it up, that would actually turn into something people really liked,
Right.
and that would mean that you had done something that's slightly different than what everyone else is doing.
Right. For example, if Souls continued to,
Yeah.
that's the vegan restaurant that we were working for, if they continue to come out with 15 videos every year, they might start to become known as the restaurant that comes out with those videos, or maybe they only do 5 a year, right?
Yeah.
And everybody starts to look forward to them and is like, that kind of becomes part of their identity. When one comes out, they're like, oh shit, a new Souls video is out, and people know what that means.
Yeah.
Obviously that takes time to build.
Exactly.
But that's just one strategy of many. I mean, you can also now take what we did and they can say, we want something completely different. The shower video did really well. We want more stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is possible as well. And then we'll have to.
And it's fair, but it just shows that how kind of complicated this can all get.
Yeah.
There's really no formula. There's
Right.
no right or wrong answer.
Right.
Definitely things that indicate things. That doesn't mean it's 100%.
Especially when you're trying to do new things. Yeah. Right. If you're just trying to see what does well and recreate it, that's another strategy, I guess. I mean, we could make tasty videos for them, tasty style videos of, but then I would argue that, they lose a bit of their uniqueness, and maybe somebody would be like, oh, they've become too commercial, or, oh, that might piss somebody off, and then that person doesn't go. Whereas the niche little videos might make that, I don't know.
No,
Who knows?
I obviously agree,
Yeah.
because
Who
that's what
knows?
we're doing.
Yeah.
But that's also, we're trying to create something that is, it's our style.
Right.
It's something unique, something that
Right.
you have to come to us to get.
Right.
We could just create a bunch of videos that
And
look
the
like a bunch of
trade-off,
other videos.
the trade-off is that we put in more work.
Yeah.
We have to put in more work. If we suddenly say, hey, we're going to make this video a one shot when we could have made it whatever, now it's on us to fucking figure out how that whole thing works and the choreography of it all and whatever. Now it's extra work for us, but of course we're willing to do it if we can get them to accept to do something new and exciting.
Yeah.
A win-win-win situation, as they say.
I think the best part is the amount that we actually learn by putting out a video like that, and then in hindsight being able to look at it and be like, oh well, that we could have done that differently, and
Right.
that it doesn't mean that what we did was wrong, but I think now we're getting answers to things that we weren't sure about.
Right.
So yeah, it's all part of it.
It's all part of it. And we also learn that music is really expensive. So if you're going to sell somebody a bunch of videos, make sure you calculate in the cost of music, because
We knew it, but we just somehow didn't think about it.
yeah.
Or didn't take that into consideration,
It's
even though we
just one
took
of
a
those-
lot into consideration.
Right. And again, I'll say, I'll toot our horns here. Like, we
You
will
said that like 5 or 6 times
go
this
I'm
podcast.
just bragging, and then just me bragging for an hour. We will use music. We will sacrifice.
yeah.
You know?
We won't just not do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
But what I mean by that is that, you learn as you go, and we've already said, okay, well, the next company we talk to, if we're going to sell them, 5 short videos of something, we'll make sure to tell them, if you guys want music in all of these, that's going to cost this much as a flat rate. I mean, we don't compose music. We don't have free music to use. We have to license music from the artist that we get it from, right? So that's just more of that they understand that, and they don't feel like we're just pocketing extra money.
But then we get into also a weird territory, which I keep saying every time you mention that, which is,
you
don't want them ending up going, oh, well, then don't use music and just make it cheaper.
Right.
Because then obviously that might work for some videos, and definitely does. Music doesn't necessarily make a video better.
No.
But it's definitely a tool you want to be able to use. So
And
if we're suddenly
some people
saying, look,
want-
it's more expensive if you want music, then they might be like, oh, well, then don't use music. I think what we need to do is figure out
what
a
is
way to I think we have now products we can show people,
Right.
which means we can raise our prices because they see what it does,
Right,
and
right.
we can show results as well. And so we don't need to be explaining everything that we are spending money on.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also what we started to do in the beginning, and we saw quickly was wrong because it's a little confusing.
Well,
Like,
we at the beginning we would tell people what our day rate is,
Yeah.
and that very quickly became evident of like, let's not do that because first of all, it's usually not accurate, and yeah, then it becomes too. Why did we stop doing that?
well,
That was a very good reason.
it's hard for I think it's hard for people to because they will only compare what a day rate means to them. And so
Right.
what our day rate means is we're calculating the cost of music, the cost of renting equipment if we were to. We've invested
Right.
in it, so we have it already. The cost of our actual hours, which
Right.
maybe is all they are thinking. Why are you charging that much for just hours? That doesn't
Right.
make any sense. That's way more, but that's not what it is. It's all these other variables that we're calculating
Right.
into a day rate. So it doesn't make sense to do that for what we're doing. I think
It is a balance, though, I think, sometimes, because people really don't know what it takes to make a video sometimes. And I think they could think we're just ripping them off. And there is something to be said about, like,
But,
look, if you
yeah.
want a quality video, there are things that
yeah.
just cost money, obviously. Just time. Like, with the last 2 podcasts ago when we calculated how much we're making per hour.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not walking home with,
No.
you know, we could make more money just working at McDonald's. But,
That's a funny quote.
yeah.
Could make more money working at McDonald's. No, but that's what I meant by now we have stuff to show, which means it's only going to get easier in terms
I think so,
of,
too.
In terms of we don't have to be explaining ourselves away at why we're charging what we're charging. People will ideally, again, I don't know. This is just
We'll find out,
what
yeah.
people, it seems from what we are showing, people like it and say we want more of that,
Right.
or let's work again.
Right.
So obviously there is something to be said about what we are producing.
Yeah. Do you know what it is?
What?
I think it's that when you work with smaller companies like ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we're competing with like someone's nephew who made a video for them, right?
Yeah.
It's not whereas I think the bigger the companies become, the more those companies, I think we would actually have an advantage with bigger companies,
Yeah.
because we'd be way cheaper than whatever massive corporate production
Yeah.
company they're working with.
This is what I mean, because as soon
Then
as
we
we
become
start,
competitive. But at the bottom,
Yeah.
we're kind of like, well, my nephew made a video for us for free
Yeah.
last year, right? And it's a shit video, but they're like, well, yours is just going to be better. But
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much more could it really cost?
yeah, it's exactly that.
You know?
So I think as we have videos coming out and them being seen,
Yeah.
we are being approached by people who want to work with us.
Yeah.
They are coming from a place of maybe understanding that a little bit more than right when we started, which was working for free.
Yeah.
And people not having any idea of how much video actually
Right.
costs to make
yeah,
or
yeah,
how
yeah.
long it takes to make it.
Yeah.
So
So,
that's all.
capiche.
Only how many more days of this bet?
T minus, what is today, the 18th?
19th,
19th?
I believe.
T minus 5 days till Christmas.
I'm
Mary Chrysler.
I get like periods of intense motivation outside of our business.
Uh-huh.
And I'm currently in one.
Good.
I'm very pumped up about really pushing myself physically. I'm reading a book by David Goggins. We've talked about him a lot. He's
David Goggins. And that's the truth. Period.
he's a ex-Navy SEAL who does ultra marathons.
That's the truth.
And he's written a book about mental strength, or what is, that's not
Do
the
you
word
call
I
it mental
used.
toughness?
Mental toughness. That's kind of like a new term he's invented,
Okay.
or at least like a new field of expertise
Okay.
that he likes to talk about. And it's just so perfect that I'm reading it right at the end of doing this bet where I've been working out more
6
and
days a
reading
week.
more. And it's just making me want to do even more of it. Because it's like you learn something, but you need to have it repeated to you every so often.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
unless it just really sticks, which it rarely does, you need that reminder
Right.
as to why was it I was doing that intense schedule
Right.
however many months ago. Why? I don't really remember.
Right.
And then, oh yeah, that's why. And you start to get all these, you just need reminders. And I'm definitely being reminded at the right time.
What would you pinpoint yours down to? Why for you? Why do I need a
reminder?
Want to go crazier?
So if we're talking specifically about like the physical stuff, is that
Well, you're saying I'm very motivated. Like, what are you motivated about?
what am I motivated to do?
Yeah.
I'm motivated to get up earlier, to work out more, and to but to push those workouts further than they can go. Like, the workouts we've done in the climbing gym that have been really hard.
Yeah.
And how like that feels afterwards compared to some of the ones where like, oh, let's quickly just do some squats.
Love those too.
In the moment, yeah. But afterwards, I always feel like shit.
Really?
And I feel fucking awesome after the ones that are really hard. And it's purely, well, obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff like endorphins that are rushing into my bloodstream. But on a bigger scale, after that's worn off, it's this feeling of like being able to control your actions through your thoughts. That's very appealing to me. That I feel like the physical stuff is just such a literal, simple way to practice more complex things like thoughts, emotions that can feel a lot more confusing and harder to tackle. Whereas like going for a run is very basic, and it gets you a very similar outcome. And I feel like I can apply those skills to things that are actually important.
Yeah.
And so I can't come up with any reasons not to do more of it.
Is there a goal in mind, or this is just the general sort of?
It's like a reminder. It's like when I was saying, let's listen to the first podcast.
I was reminded.
I was reminded.
What was the reason in the past for doing it?
I was reminded that I want to climb a bunch of these insane mountains, and I want to run a bunch of the hardest races in the world. And why did I say that? Why did I want to do that? And I've been thinking that sometimes. Like I've said, I want to run an Ironman. I totally do. And I was like, sometimes you ask me like, why do you want to do that? I'm like, I'm not quite sure, but I feel like I get these moments of understanding it and remembering and realizing what it is.
Yeah.
And it is this idea of being able to control what I think and what I do afterwards. I feel a certain way and I can control what I do about it. And that something like running an Ironman is going to give me the skills that I need to do that in life and be happier in general. And yeah, I can do more than just working out 6 times a week. It's like, it's not about the number. It's like about the intensity and about the intention as well. Like, why am I doing it? And actually like using it for that reason. And well, you told me to watch a documentary about the Barkley Marathon on YouTube. And that did it. Like on top of reading the book I'm reading and then watching that yesterday morning.
What's it called?
It's called Where Dreams Go to Die, about Gary Robbins attempting to run the Barkley Marathon.
Right.
It's arguably the hardest race on the planet.
But it's so interesting because, like I said, you watched it and my friend Kevin watched it.
Yeah.
And you guys both really got motivated from it. And Kevin was, didn't you get all motivated from it? And I really didn't. And I told you that I can understand in a way why people are drawn to it, but I do find it interesting. This sort of fascination for something that I can't understand the same way I'm sure I'm fascinated and do things that other people wouldn't understand.
Yeah, and I was telling you that. I was like, I think you do understand. I think you just need to apply what you know about why you do something to that. And it's the same.
Right.
It's like, why is your entire life right now making Boris and Johan?
Right. Well, that's where I can understand it from. The weird thing about the running, and I misunderstood it maybe a little bit, is that on the surface it's something for your health, but when you take it to that extreme, it's not really healthy anymore.
Yeah,
it's
no,
kind
totally.
of
I don't think about it as it's good. It's good for my health.
right. But in
good
my
for
head,
my
I was
mental
like,
health.
oh, people run.
It's my mental health.
Right. But I thought like, oh, people run.
Right, to lose weight or to
Right,
stay fit
cardio,
or to make your
you know.
heart beat in the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's a point where it's just like, well, it's not that anymore because you're breaking your body down.
Yeah.
Right. But the same way, making a film obviously isn't the healthiest thing either because it's very stressful. It's long hours. You're sitting in front of a computer all day. But I would say, again, there's other aspects.
Yeah, that outweigh that.
Right. That are also healthy,
Yeah.
discipline and, like you said, mental health things, right?
Yeah.
Feeling like you have a purpose and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But it's not necessarily
Yeah.
physically healthy for your body. Right.
Exactly.
Which is interesting.
And something, I think what I said yesterday was the idea of being able to actually know that I am actually capable of being mentally tough or of controlling how I think. It's not just something I'm saying.
Right.
Because until you can actually show something,
Well,
that's
that's what you were saying, why you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Is part of the reason is so that then it is justified.
Yeah,
If
we
you
were-
do talk to someone about mental toughness,
yeah.
you're like,
I have some
yeah, but I
weight behind
fucking
it.
ran 100 miles, dude. Like, I think I have a little bit to say about this.
It's also, it proves it to myself.
Mm.
I have definitely not been in a situation that is that challenging.
Right.
And I think it just adds to something that I find very important in my life that I want to also talk to other people about.
Right.
And that it's something that can I actually do this stuff that I'm
Right.
talking about?
Right.
It's like, I gotta go and
separates
practice
you,
it.
right? There's so many, because we've talked about this too. You get if you go out and you say, hey guys, I'm going to make a feature film,
Yeah.
right? Which so many people say in college, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone kind of gets you feel good because you said it. You almost didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And you've already gotten the satisfaction of having said that you are going to do it. Because people kind of, oh, that's cool, dude. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
Well, there's a lot of research that suggests actually you shouldn't tell people your goals. You should write them down so that you know them.
Interesting.
But there's a significant amount of pleasure that is gained from just speaking
Right. That's what I'm
a
saying.
goal to other people because
Yeah.
they give you praise.
Right.
Maybe you should keep it to yourself and actually wait for the real thing.
Right. That's probably a good idea. Or
Yeah.
my approach, where you just tell so many people,
If you don't.
if you don't do it,
Well, I'm
you're
under
just gonna
that
have a panic
I think
attack.
it's a bit of both. I
Right.
think when I tell people of a goal I have, or even just you or whoever,
right,
it's a mixed feeling of being suddenly very fucking nervous
right,
because but also like, yeah, I kind of know with myself that I am going to do that.
right. But it is easy, like with me smoking cigarettes or something.
Yeah.
If I hadn't told you that I'm going to do that,
Yeah.
it would be so easy for me to just reverse that in my head a little bit.
Yeah.
And for one day, a lot of times what will stop me is like, I don't want to fucking lose to this fucking asshole.
And
I don't want to go
it's
to
a
him and
good
say,
enough thing sometimes. Sometimes
yeah.
you need that.
And I'm just saying that's one of many reasons
Right.
that might help you in the end. But yeah, I definitely respect people who would just, for example, not tell anyone.
But do it.
They're going to run a
But
marathon
pull it
and
off.
just do it.
Yeah.
And
No,
be
there's
like,
something very that's kind of freaky to me. Like,
yeah,
wow,
that would be
that's
freaky.
cool.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting one. I mean, I think I get enough out of the drive to either live up to what I've said or what
Right.
someone thinks I can do,
Right.
but also to prove someone wrong who might be having doubts about whether or not I'm actually going to do it.
Right. And
Or
that can
even
motivate
try.
you as well. Someone
does.
doubts you.
It definitely does. So yeah, I'm
It's exciting.
I'm like
I'm ready to film this
fucking ready to go.
Iron Man. Now.
Yeah, I mean, we got to talk about all that too.
Yeah. And so, but very quickly on that, you said you don't want to do it in an actual race, right? And I don't want to be, I'm not saying actual, so it wouldn't be real.
No, I know what you mean.
But you're
it's
just
not an
setting a
organized
plan,
event.
right?
No, yeah, I just want to.
That's quite cool, I think.
It's
Would you set yourself a time cap though? The same way,
Yeah,
you know,
I would.
because we watched a couple of videos of people coming in like 3 minutes late on an Ironman, and just sort of you had an interesting perspective on what that would mean.
Yeah, I said that. I think it obviously depends on the event, but the idea of you needing to finish at a certain time, and if you don't finish after that, you officially haven't finished,
Yeah.
is something that makes the whole experience so much more intense. There's something you are actually training up to. It's not just a distance, it's also you need to do it by a certain amount of time.
Right.
Because obviously you could just
Walk.
you could go, and it could take a week, you know. I mean, no one would do that.
No.
But this idea of there being
People would actually.
time constraint.
Some asshole would be like, no, I ran it as well, and I came in 2 weeks after you.
Yeah. But my point was that if you then miss that cutoff, but you've given it all you had,
Right.
I don't think there's a massive difference between whether or not you had made it before the time limit,
Right.
or came in 3 minutes afterwards.
Right.
I mean, if you knew with yourself that you could have given more, of course it's going to kill you,
Yeah.
and you're going to hate yourself.
Which
so.
would you not? I mean, if you're, let's say, like 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Shaving off 3 minutes over the course of how long was the race? 18 hours?
Yeah, that guy that we watched, I think it was 17.
17 hours, right? So you must think, well, yeah, I could have probably shaved off 3 minutes.
That's true.
You know, I was walking for that one
But
part.
I
where
think
could have
it
just,
highlights the point of it's not about,
No,
it's
it's
not
not.
about completing
No,
it.
it's
It's not, it's about what you learn during it. And for me, very much about learning about getting to that point.
right.
It's
But you
such
need
a
it as
huge
well.
point.
I guess it's the same as a
do-
mountain.
otherwise
I
you
wouldn't know.
don't-
You would never go if there wasn't the peak.
You need to get to the top.
But it's not only about the peak, is what you've said to me. I mean,
It's such a weird thing, because of course it's important to finish
Right.
in time, and of course it's important to get to the top of the mountain. But then
is
at
what
the
you're
same
saying. Everything else is just as important.
no, because as soon as you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
everything else is all it is.
Is the end.
No,
Oh,
it's about the journey.
right.
It's sounding as cheesy as possible here. But as soon as you start it, it's all about the journey. But without the goal, or
Right.
without the time limit, or whatever it is,
Right.
it's almost like the journey would be that much harder to go on,
Yeah.
and you
Or-
wouldn't be enjoying it, because it's like you need one to have the other.
I think so. And I think you do need. I was watching that Orson Welles documentary, and a lot of people were saying he had problems finishing his films.
Yeah.
And like one of the films, his last film, I forget what it's called now, The Other Side of the Wind or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It just took forever to finish, and I couldn't help but think it's because, you know, he's so revered as a filmmaker. He doesn't really have that studio coming down on him saying you need to finish it by
Yeah.
then, and it's almost a detrimental thing because, yeah, he died before he could ever finish it, and it sort of becomes this. If you don't, you need a little bit of that pressure. You need to be able to self-impose a little bit of a. I want to finish it by this time. Otherwise, it does just go on forever.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's what I mean. It's such a literal metaphor, the working out and the running,
Right.
or the climbing.
Right.
It's so like painfully obvious, the parallel you can draw to like things that actually matter.
Right.
Like when I go on a run, I know that I've set myself a goal for how fast I want to run the thing.
Yeah.
Not the run, not the workout, the actual Ironman.
Okay.
That I have to kind of be pushing myself on this like
What
single
is the
workout.
goal? You want to throw that out here?
Well, I want to go under 12 hours, which isn't like insane.
Damn.
That's like the average.
Okay. 12.
But I've also had, because I also said, to me, more importantly, the day I'm going to do it, which that to me is super binding. Like, it's going to be on that day.
On that day, which was a year or like a little bit.
I think I had 10 months from when I said it,
10 months.
and it was on my birthday.
Right.
And there's definitely been times when I've been like, oh fuck, I don't know if I have enough time to actually train for this properly.
Yeah.
But having that date means that I've gone on a significant amount of workouts that I wouldn't have done had I not set that date.
And that's the truth. Period.
Yeah, but it really is it's not about the it really doesn't matter the like the working out to me. Like I see the health benefits and that it's important to make part of your life.
Yeah.
But for me specifically, what I want to do has a lot more to do with what I can gain from it mentally.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I've set those goals. Is not because I think that's something everyone should do.
No, I know.
I think a lot of people would not get anything positive out of doing stuff like that because that's there's probably better ways of doing it, but for me that's what has worked. So can't wait to keep reading this book.
All right, good. And I think we've magically hit our cap here.
Sure sounds
Is there
like it.
anything else you want to discuss? Anything else you want to say while it's still 2018?
Well, get ready for some
2019, 2020.
for some suffering when we're going climbing, because I'm fucking ready to push it.
I'm ready. I'm interested to see how I deal with it, you know?
Yeah.
I have in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm not willing to risk my life.
No.
Right.
No. That's not what I meant by some serious suffering. And
Right.
I meant like a long time, or like cold, or like
Just get in the
do
zone.
it again,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like let's really push ourselves mentally.
Yeah. I think it'll be really good. For those of you who don't know, we're still planning on climbing a mountain. I got my avalanche tracker. So for everyone, please take a deep breath. Your boy, if he dies, he's dying with an avalanche tracker on him, which at least I won't be seen as the fool who left without his
Who
avalanche
thought
tracker.
he could walk on a mountain in the winter without one.
I was slowly convincing myself. I was like,
I'll just, but the thing is, then you just not be able to do a bunch of stuff.
that's what I was thinking. I was like, I would just be like, you guys go along.
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
it would be a shame.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm about to waltz out on a.
And I'll still, if I see a massive
slope.
thing and you guys are walking out, I'm like, okay,
No,
I'm
you're
good.
gonna be like,
I'm gonna chill out.
You're gonna be like, fucking hell, why
Yeah,
come back?
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not gonna say, I'm chill here. Hopefully,
Bye.
You'll say, I don't go there.
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm planning on doing.
Don't go.
Be like, oh, you guys just go. I don't feel like dying.
No. But you know what I mean.
But the point isn't to have an avalanche tracker so you can walk on avalanche terrain. The point is that in case you've made the wrong choice and you've judged somewhere to be safe and it's not, you still have some backup safety.
Right. But I'm saying, even if I didn't have an avalanche tracker,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go very far.
No, that's
far
what
at
I
all.
mean. You wouldn't even go to
Even
places where
it
it was judged as
Gives
being
you a
safe.
little bit of comfort of like,
Of course.
Okay, well, yeah, but obviously at some point it's still the same
It's not,
decision.
it's not suddenly like you're in some magical bubble that you can now go anywhere you want
No?
on the mountain with an avalanche tracker.
No. But it does give me a little bit of what do you call it? Respite, or a little bit of clarity of mind, or a little bit of less panic.
Yeah.
You know,
A little bit of safety.
a little bit of safety and a little bit of fun. I'm excited to use that thing and practice with it.
Ooh, I can't wait.
You know,
I'm so ready.
I think we could play a little game of hide and go seek. Two people bury each other. And
I don't know
bury
if you
yourself
just
under
bury
the snow.
the fucking tracker. You don't need to
No,
bury
I want to
yourself.
bury myself under the snow.
You dig your own hole. You
Yeah.
get in it yourself.
Yeah.
And
Well, have your brother help me, and he'll pat me over.
fine.
All right,
Well-
and we'll see you guys 2019 with episode number. What have we hit?
29, I think.
29 is going to be
This
20.
is 28.
So 29, 2019 is going to be
29.
episode
There's
29.
one of the same numbers.
Very exciting.
Almost the same.
Very exciting. 2019. 2019. Okay, bye.
See you next year.
Okay, bye.